Look, you have several bass players that do this, you know, famous bass players. You have, the first one that comes to mind is Paul McCartney, of course, you know, always played along, and I used to always wonder, wow, how does he play those very lyrical lines and sing with such great melody as well? And you have Peter Cetera, of course, who's quite influenced by Paul McCartney from Chicago. Sting, of course, and who else is there? There's a few, but that's three big ones anyway. And I actually started off as a singer. I was lead singer in my local sort of school bands, and I always played a bit of guitar to sort of accompany myself. And one of the bands I was playing in back in the 60s, the bass player got ill, and I had a bass at home I used to love to tinker on, but I never would have considered myself a bass player. And they said, what are we going to do? We can't get a bass player. We've got a gig in 2 weeks, you know. And I said, all right, well, I'll have a go. I know all the songs to sing, so I'll try and learn the bass parts. But man, what a challenge. That was, I would just had to work 12 hours a day, you know, just to try and get myself up to speed. And that started me doing that actual thing. And it was just a thing of necessity of actually just grabbing it and doing it. I'm sure I didn't do it very well back then, but it started me on the process. And a lot of people said to me, well, how do you do that? You know, like I watch you playing and you're playing the bass line and you're singing. And well, I have to be honest with you, it doesn't entirely come naturally. It's not a natural thing to do, especially if bass parts are should we say, contrapuntal to the melody. So I've developed a few little techniques to help with that. And I'd say one thing is a bass line can always be simplified. You know, there's ways of playing things that sometimes you find actually is a lot less than you need to play to actually anchor the song. To, you know, the important thing being the song, unless of course if you're in a situation where the bass is featuring as a solo instrument, that's a different thing altogether. But in a song, it's amazing just how simple the bass can be. So the first thing that I would do in a situation is see how little I actually need to play to enable the song. Because there's no point in me having a great fancy bass line and I can't actually sing the song properly, or I'm stopping and stuttering on the song. So the first thing actually really has to be the vocal in the song, and the bass has to be the accompaniment for it. So with that in mind of simplifying, when I do get to very difficult parts, it's almost like for any of you who have worked at home on your computers and constructing music, and you know the way MIDI it is, and how you have 4 beats in the bar and you have, you know, whatever, 16 bars in your passage, you know, of the song. And sometimes I actually have to break it down bar at a time. Get the vocal, and it's almost like I, you know, anchor the bass, play the bass, then insert the vocal into it, or vice versa. Sing the song and insert the bass into it. And it's a slow programming situation. Sometimes it takes quite a lot of time to do it. In fact, I remember when I was in the foreigner band, sometimes I was the third singer and backup singer in the foreigner band as well as being the bass player. And sometimes one of the singers would say, oh, Joe, can you sing this part? I'd go, well, right now, no, but give me about 4 hours, yes. So I'd take it home, dissect it, and lay it in, and really basically lay the parts together. And gradually, very slowly, sometimes even with a metronome or a program just running, and then gradually bring it up to speed. And then when I would do it, it would be like, why couldn't I always do that? It's like riding a bike, you know, how do you do it? You know, you just do it. So that's in a simple sort of way. There's one song I really wanted to play. The bass line is reasonably simple, although it's tricky in so much it's very rhythmical. It's a Sly and the Family Stone song, and the part is by a bass player called Rusty Allen, who replaced Larry Graham. Rusty's a great player and very lyrical, but also incredibly funky. The song was called The Same Thing. So the melody is very simple in the song. It's just like the same thing that can make you laugh, can make you cry. The same thing you eat to live can make you die. And so it goes on like that. So it's not a difficult song to sing, but put it together with do it, I can do it pretty easy now. The same thing that can make you laugh can make you cry. The same truth that you live can make you die. The same thing that you live can make you die. The same thing that can make you laugh can make you cry. Okay, so that's it. And what I had to do with that was analyze the bass line, slow it down. So it's like. It's a good idea to do this with a metronome actually, because when you slow things down, you tend to, when you speed it up, you tend to slur things a bit. So you have to be very accurate. It's like when you talk slowly, you have to be more articulate. So when your articulation is that little bit much more accurate at very slow speed, when you play fast, it'll be a lot cleaner as well. So bring it right down and start singing. The same thing that can make you laugh can make you cry. If you want to get fancy and the breaks, so you can do your fancy bits when you're not singing if you want, and keep the meat and potatoes for a while you're singing. So the meat and potatoes basically is the